Hi, welcome to. Oh, sorry, let me get comfortable. Welcome to our first podcast of this kind, basically, that we're doing here on Real Terryo Radio. Or, I can't believe I've just done that. Pick my nose. But yeah, welcome. And so, what we're going to talk about today's topic, what I've chosen to talk about is our lovely. Well, basically, I want to talk about student finance and like going to university with, shall we say, a disability. I have dyspraxia, and dyslexia, and I just went to university and successfully gained a higher national diploma in logistics from the University of Wales, Trinity St David. I really am not used to this. This is the first time I've used YouTube, and it's live, and I just want to sit there like this. But I can't, and I really want to scratch my nose. So, yeah. Let's see if we can now show you something off the screen. I don't know how this works. So, welcome. This is our first podcast of this, and it's the Davies show here on the Ontario Radio. Look to the end. Okay, so today's topic, like I said, is dyspraxia, university and dyspraxia. So, when did I first know I was dyspraxic? I first knew that I was dyspraxic when I was about 6 years old. This was done when I was, they basically diagnosed me with dyslexia. They didn't find out about the dyscalculia until I was about 21 years of age. So when I went to university for the third time, I've gone to university 3 times in my life before now. I've gone to three different universities. First, I went to an institution called the Institute of Higher Education. That was, or is now, part of the University of Wales, Trinity St David. When I went there, the lady first said that I wasn't dyslexic, and that basically the people who diagnosed me before were kind of wrong. Or I was having a good day. I remember that. Having a good day, she said. But then so then after the first 2 years, because I had no support at university whatsoever, I dropped out. Worst mistake in my life, because now proves that I could have done it with the right support. It actually took longer for them to implement my support package than what was previously said. However, I had to go to 3 different universities before they actually implemented my support package, and I was able to pass. So it's quite daunting, shall we say. It's quite weird as well. And I'm saying a bit too much, but this happens, and sometimes it's a bit So yeah, basically, I went to the university. University's fun, sometimes maybe, possibly not. So we are streaming right now, and if you are joining us, do visit our website, group.realterryo.com or realterryoradio.com, and find out some more information about Real Terryo. Basically, I set this up before I went to university when I was ill and I had depression. I had very bad depression as part of the dyspraxia, my doctor said. So, that's life, basically. So, yes. So, if, once again, for you to see, First to see it again. Ah, hello again. So yes. So what's quite fun is that I can do this. Sorry. This is, like I said, the first time. I will promise that the next ones will be a little bit better than this. But I just wanted to, I wanted to vent, really. I'm in a bad mood today because of the student finance company. And basically, people seem to not understand that trying to explain to them, right, this is the best bit. Yes, I can go to university. No, I'm not in a wheelchair. I can walk. I can, and to look at me, you wouldn't actually think that I have a disability, even if you can hear me speak. But I actually do. Is just, it's quite annoying when you try and explain to people that, yeah, I am dyspraxic. Sorry, I put the thing back on because I wanted a drink. And I didn't want you to see me drink, and I had an itch. But okay, so we'll get there now. So I'm going to be here for about an hour until about 11:15. Actually, maybe not. I'm based in the UK. I'm going to talk about my experiences. If you are watching this and you've gone to university, you have a disability, feel free to comment or to go into the live chat box. I want to hear your opinions of the whole system and if you've had problems with student finance, basically. I keep saying, gosh, man. It's a typical Welsh word, isn't it? Man. So, yeah. So remember, we also have Facebook, and it's www.facebook.com/realterryo. I am on there right now, so if you want to contact me, you are free to. Hi, hearing this little podcast or vlog. I like that word, vlog. Yes, vlog. It's a good word. Now, okay, so when did I decide to go back to university the last time? It was a Monday night in August 2013, all those ages ago. I remember it like yesterday. A friend of mine came to visit. Both had no jobs and were very bored, very fed up, and wanted to go back to university. We were talking about it, and my friend said, well, I'm thinking of going back to university. To which I said, that's funny because I've been thinking of doing the same thing. I wasn't going to go back in September. I was going to wait a year, then go back. But after talking that night and spontaneous Googling and looking on the UCAS website, I decided to go back to, or go back to Swansea Institute as it was then. It was called Swansea Metropolitan, a name change and a rebrand. And then when I got to the university, there was another name change and rebrand to the University of Wales, Trinity St David. Now, I originally applied to do international travel or international tourism management. On the first week, I didn't really feel a part of the group. It was a very big group as well. I don't like loads of people. I like to be on my own and I like to have quiet and all of it was hard because many different people in the room. So I looked actually on the website before I asked, and I looked into the transfer about if I could move courses and what courses they offered. Now, I did transfer before to a HND in transport. Well, they no longer offered that. So I saw that the school now offered logistics. Well, me being me thinking logistics and transport, well, they are the same. Well, they are, you know. They're kind of the same, basically. Transport really looks at like the public transport side of it. Logistics looks at, you know, lorries and transport and supply chain. So I moved onto that. I originally started on a BSc course. So it's a Bachelor of Science in Logistics and Supply Chain Management. Course isn't offered anymore, but they do offer more courses. I will show you the website and what to contact. The team, on the course team, there are 3 lecturers. I remember this because I remember going to the lecturer on the international tourism course and saying to him, well, basically, I want to transfer. I don't feel this is the right course for me. This was after they told you, like, on the first week what was going to happen and how stuff does. And I just didn't feel, by the Thursday, I didn't feel that it, actually, it was by the Tuesday night. I didn't feel it was, you know, right. On the Wednesday, we had the day off. And then on the Thursday, I emailed the guy or the lecturer on the Wednesday, and I asked. He said, I'll have to look into it yourself, give them a call. So I remember giving them a call, and I remember speaking to one of my favorite lecturers on the telephone, and him just being his normal self and saying, coming on Monday at 9 o'clock, and we'll talk then. Being my first day on the course, he accepted me there and then. I'm not going to mention names in this because, firstly, I don't think it's right that we actually, or I actually mention other people's names. But yeah. Anyway, so moving on slowly and swiftly through life. I then joined the class. On the first day, I remember meeting my note taker. I actually remember because she called me on a Sunday. You get a note taker. I have to have a note taker, I should say. Basically, someone who takes my notes for me. They write. So I can't read my own writing. I never have been able to. I can work it bits out now, but I can't. My hands and stuff become very stressed if I'm writing loads of notes, and I seem to miss what the lecturer's saying. I've even taken my laptop to university and tried typing, but I do miss some of them. But it's sometimes nice to have my own notes as well as the other person's notes. But, you know, because we're not missing stuff, because sometimes they might miss stuff. But I remember meeting my first note taker. It was a woman. She was awesome, basically. I got on with her the first couple of days, or weeks, or years, and we're still friends to today. Did have a few little problems, but you know, in life you do have problems. I'm going to tell you one of my biggest problems, or what my biggest problem has been, and I have mentioned it already, and it is the student finance company. But what can you do about them besides try and get them gone? See, we move away from this. I have a firm belief that education should be free to anyone. And anyone who wants to progress themselves shouldn't be charged extortionate prices, such as £9,000 a year or £7,500 a year because you're a Welsh student. You know, it's wrong. Most universities are actually registered charities, meaning that they get charity money, government money, plus the tuition fees to do everything that they want. But actually, yeah, the service that they give is quite bad. Theoretically, a student is a customer, but they seem to forget this. And I've had this conversation with many other students who say, basically, you know, I go to university and they teach us like how to do it or how we should do it, but in practice, they don't implement it themselves. It's quite worrying, to tell the truth. And you know, if the senior management of a university doesn't really implement something, but they're actually teaching it, like strategy. I studied strategy last year, and what's quite funny is when you look at it and they say to always plan and, you know, to be preemptive, you know, and to be that, and to plan, And then you see the university, and it's just like one shambles after another. The same can be said for the student finance company. Now, basically, then, or shall we'll wait for them for a bit, because I want to move on. I want to talk about like my first year, my second year, my third year, and this is how I'm going to do it. Yes, I have done 3 years at the University of Wales Trinity St Davies, but only really completed 2, as I've had to repeat a year. So we're on my first year, we're on my first couple of days. I remember turning up to this lecture, you know, the one on the telephone. We used to have him on Thursday morning. Well, Thursday afternoon, sorry, because on a Thursday morning we used to have another lecture, and I would always try and be at this, you know, my favourite lecturer's class. I don't know, I just like the way he taught. He wouldn't shilly-shally and like, you know, the politically correctness of a university basically say what the Vice-Chancellor wants you to say because of funding. Well, this lecturer is nothing like that. He will say it as it is, and he will tell you as it is. Sometimes, though, you know, we have cracked skulls, or I've been a bit angry at, you know, my marks, or but, you know, that's the part and parcel of university life. He's been very supportive as well through my degree or through my HND. That's quite daunting because, do you know, the other times, if I had one person who supported me like that at Birmingham, because there's so many small, because in Birmingham there was like 40, actually 60 people in my cohort, so in my class. And then we were broke up into 2 groups of 30. For me, I sometimes require one-on-one attention because it's a bit daunting to be in a group full of 60 people, and it takes me time to actually get to know people as well. And this is one of the things, when they said I had to repeat this year, I was a bit nervous all of last summer about when I found out I'm repeating, about actually going new class. But it somehow worked because I was getting better grades than the year before. Now, in my first year, back to my first year, you remember my first year, I told you about my note taker and my favourite lecturer so far, and there were 2 other lecturers. They're really good as well because there are only 3 lecturers on the course. So basically, you would only see these 3 lecturers, and they knew every student's name, or they know every student's name that they teach. They even, you know, you can go and knock the door and say, "Oh, so-and-so, I have a problem. Can you help me, please?" And if they've got the time for you, it's, "Terry, come and sit down, take a seat." You know, and then you tell them your problem, and they try and help you. That's how good the team at UWTSD in logistics at Swansea are. But, you know. Now, moving on. So we got through the year. I had to repeat, basically. I was a bit ill through the year as well. I get very bad bouts of anxiety as part of the dyspraxia. So I don't like to go out or even be around other people. So I just really stay in my room. And I have to say that the university were very understanding. Even though I pushed the limits, they were very understanding that sometimes, yeah, although I would miss a lecture, it wasn't actually what was quite good. About 3 modules, and I had to rewrite the assignment. Oh, actually, it was 2, and I had to rewrite the assignments. I forgot to hand them in. Basically, sometimes I would get an extension, and then the extension would go over, and then the next assignment be due, and I'd forget the assignment because I would just lose track where I am. But you know, that's another thing that really is like, and it's not really an extension, it's a differentiated deadline. So basically they changed the deadline to add a week or 2 weeks onto it. Um, Sometimes that was a bit of a help, but sometimes it was a bit of a hindrance. So yeah. Then moving on, I went into the second year with my old group on the BSc. I was allowed to continue that year because I failed my maths exam. Well, basically, I would have. I have dyscalculia, and no one actually gave me maths support until my second year. But that was, one-on-one support. The lecturer tried his goddamn, the both of them tried their goddamn hardest to get me there. But when they have to teach the rest of the class as well, and you have no one to go to, it is a bit hard. So in the second year, I went to my academic coordinator and I asked her if I could get someone with maths. And lucky enough, the person that they gave me, I get along with because I had another mentor. I've had a few mentors through my time at the university, different kinds of people as well. I always remember them. They're really good people. They help you with like assignments and the structure and how to write your assignment. They don't do any of the work for you. You do your own work, and that's the way it should be. They just point. If they think there's something that you could elaborate on before the handing, well, they'll tell you this, and you elaborate on it. It's advice. Basically, this is all paid for from student finance, and we'll move on to that later. So then we had my second year here with my old group. It's quite fun because at the beginning of the year, I was given a new note taker. It was different. That's all I'm going to say. I was given a note taker who was actually younger than me, what was quite the first time ever. And yeah, it was a bit give or take because, I would push like the relationship boundary and stuff and so on. But, that's life and so gee. Then what happened? The year was going okay. I could have done a little bit better than what I did, and it was about April. It was Easter holidays, so we finished in March, and we were off for a month, about 3 weeks. And my mum was in America, and I was working like the clerk was trying to get my assignments done. My laptop, my old laptop, I should say, decided that it was going to break. Now, it's not a normal laptop. I have software on this laptop that's paid for by the student loans company, and more about that later, that basically dictates to me. And all of this is all connected, and we'll get back to how it's connected at the end. So I then, when my laptop broke, called the manufacturer and said, well, it's broke. I need help. I need a new one, or this one needs to be fixed. So they took the laptop back to Manchester. When you live in Swansea, Manchester's quite far away to be able to go and use your laptop. So they gave me a temporary laptop. The temporary laptop was worse than the laptop that I sent them. It had so many faults on it was overheating like there was no tomorrow. So I practically couldn't do. Well, I was using the uni computers, but at that time the university didn't have my software on their computer system anywhere on campus. So it became quite hard to actually, try and dictate to a computer, or actually change the color of the screen to blue, or, to actually do your assignments. It became so hard that I kind of failed my second year. It's not really funny, but it does happen, proving that you can work your butt off, or you can think you're working your butt off, and then one thing happens, and it just falls like a pack of cards. So then I was made to repeat the second year, and that was fun. I was very nervous about repeating my second year. But really, it was mainly because I was going to meet new people on the class. I was going to be with a whole new different group, and it was quite hard. You know, it was like going back to the first day again. All of these people had already made friends. I hadn't made friends. I had made friends with my old group, who were a year above me now, and all have graduated. I then, yeah, it was quite, you know, daunting when you're meeting new people for the first time. And I've never spoken to them before when they were years. So, yeah, I didn't really know how they would take me, and I didn't know how I would take them. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes it can be thing. I'm just going to wipe my eye because it hurts. Then so we've just got through the second year and I passed. Well, second year repeat and I passed. We've had our ups and our downs as a class, actually as a department at the university. Well, I tell you one thing. You know that lecturer I mentioned, you know, the one that I like? He has had a year from hell this year. But he has, in true British, in true British spirit, has kept buggering on. And I have to say thank you to him for that. Because I don't think without him pushing me, or without the other lecturers pushing me, or without my support team pushing me, that basically I would have ended up failing again. I actually needed, at some point, a good talking to. You know, like a child. I'm a bit older than like the normal person who goes to university. I'm 29 right now. I was 3 years. I was about 25 when I went back to uni. Quite a long time ago. So yeah. So it's been fun. I'm looking at the time and I know that I've got loads of time left, so let's talk about it, shall we? So we go to a mentoring session. In a mentoring session, it's just you and your mentor. So yeah, I had at one point 3 mentors. I had a maths mentor, an English mentor, and a mentor to help me like for studying. So basically they would help me with like researching my assignments and setting out a writing frame and, you know, all of that. It was quite fun. And there was one problem that I could see with that system. One mentor didn't want to cross over the other mentor and so on. They never really talked as a team about you, even though I think it would have been helpful if they did and we had a team. You know, we were all technically a team. I called my guys Team Terry, and Team Terry was quite, you know, fun. Now, when we at the university, what was also funny. Sorry. What was funny is, sorry, I'm just typing something. What was also funny is at the time I was doing more real Terryo stuff, so you know I was also running real Terryo because who I do real Terryo with, who happened to be one of my best friends and has been supporting me all the way from going back to university. There's been days when I have come on Skype and I have said to him, Terry, I'm going to quit today. Do you know what the first thing he does is? Saying his Terry Begley voice. No, you're bloody not. No, I really have to thank this guy. He's pushed me too. The people that have pushed me are really friends, like Terry. Lee as well, who I also do these with, real Terryo with. Lee has Lee has been a great inspiration and help. Lee has always been there, you know. It's Lee. That's what he's there for. Uh, so yeah, as I'm writing, I am writing stuff, so we can basically do this and this and this, and I'll show you this now. Sorry, I'm just getting to Team Terry. So we're now talking about Team Terry. Team Terry is quite. It's the people I call that supported me. So I'm not also my mentoring team. So I've got Team Terry at home, and Team Terry at home consists of my mum, Terry Begley, Lee, and another friend and a few other friends who do real Terryo too, and they've supported me all the way through. You know, there are days when I've just come home, like I've said, and I just wanted to quit. I just don't want to go in. I don't want to be there. You know, and it's when you feel so low, and you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't want to be there anymore, and I just don't know what to do. So then Terry would say, you know, just rise above it. You've got 3 years. You can do this. And he would support you, and he would, I don't know, he would be Terry, like normal Terry, in his abrupt voice. If you listen to Real Terry Radio, you'll know what he's like. And say that I'm not quitting. Even if he has to drag me there, I am not quitting. Then you've got Lee, Lee is always different to me and Vegas. Always has been, always will be, hopefully. Lee would just hear it and say, and he would give an impartial view, saying, you know, something like, what makes me happy, to just do it. And he wanted me to pass. And they both, even through the fights, that's going to be mentioned later on, have supported me in their own way. So yeah, Team Terry, if it wasn't for the mentors, wasn't for the support that I got from home, I practically had no support from my family. Basically, they tried to make me out to be a criminal for wanting to go back to university. Certain members of my family were gossiping about the fact that when I went to university in 2008, I got a desktop computer for free. Well, basically, it wasn't for free. It was part of my DSA. So, you know, it was funded for. And I was due a new model because after every 4 years, you get higher. You get a new, like an upgrade, or you're used to. So yeah, they try and say, make me out to be a criminal. Well, no, I went to university to better myself. And to this day, they still think because I have dyspraxia, and they don't understand it. They make no interest of looking up dyspraxia. And they still think that I am a person who can't look after themselves, who can't do this, who can't do that. Well, I've got some bad news for you. Very bad news. Yes, I can. Thank you very much. And most dyspraxic people can. It's just that we, or our brains, work differently to other people's. Yeah. So, you know, and it sometimes can be a very daunting task, shall we say, when you go to university for the first time. Now, I'm going to put our lovely, I love this because I just love it, you know? I'm now going to put this back up, and I can chat to you, you can chat to me. So if you are watching, do chat. So Team Terry, we talked about Team Terry, haven't we? So we're now going to talk about Student Finance Wales. These people, in my opinion, are the worst. They're part of the student loans company in the United Kingdom, and their job is to fund university students, to give them grants, to give them loans, to give them, to administer DSA. They don't only do universities now, they do further education colleges. Basically, they're a government company that operates as a private company. So, yeah, they're not civil servants anymore, but they actually technically, theoretically are. But on the papers, they're not. And I have to say, I get a better response dealing with someone from the benefits office than what you do with student finance company, and that is saying something in this day and age. However, I've complained about the fact, or because I had to repeat the year, we had some problems with funding because I moved from a BSc to a HND. Basically, my university no longer offered my course. And we thought, and I was advised by a lecturer who had talked, or I believe spoke to someone at finance and said, it would be better if Terrence moves to the HND because at least Terrence would get the final year of his support and a qualification. Well, no. Basically, I would have had to pay. They would have given me third year support. So when I go to another university in September to complete my degree, because I get to top up my HND, what's quite good because I would advise anyone to do a HND because basically you get 2 qualifications for the price of, for one. So yeah, the problems I've had is that in 2008, when they actually diagnosed me again, because they didn't believe all the stuff from when I was 6. Now, for those of you who have dyspraxia, you know that dyspraxia is never going to leave your body. You are born with dyspraxia, you die with dyspraxia. So this horror, to me, it's my friend. I see it as my little friend. Although I fall, I drop stuff. Sometimes I can't. Sometimes I really can't be arsed, and people make me out to be, lazy. Even my family or criminal or this. But what they actually don't get is, half the time, it's the dyspraxia. It's easy to say, but it actually is. I find it hard meeting new friends and stuff, like I've said. So I found going to university in Birmingham very hard because I was away from my mum, and I did have to live on my own, and I could do it because I was doing it very well, and I was living on like a budget. Always budget your money. That's my advice. There's many of times since I've come home and I've run out of money. Thank you, mum. But that's life as well as a student. Don't fall for the trap of credit cards. They're the worst thing invented, especially if you want to get a house afterwards. Now, back to me. Hello again. My lovely friends. So should we talk about them? So I put an appeal in because it took them from September to March of 2008, 2009 academic year to actually put any support in place for me. And for many people who have gone to university understand that for that long, if you put in so much, if you try and put in basically all of your support packages, it comes to a time when basically I'm trying to think of a way of explaining this so everyone gets it. Okay, so most of your work is handed in semesters because at universities they did it in semesters. Most universities in the UK work in semesters now. So basically, you have your first semester, then an exam board will meet. Then you have your second semester, then the exam board will meet, and they'll give you the overall mark. So most of my work was handed in by March. I had no support up until March. Well, it was quite daunting. New city, no support for my dyspraxia or my dyslexia until the March. And it was quite hard when I was coming to write these assignments because I actually didn't know how to structure them because everyone's like, oh, but what did you do in school? Well, in school they didn't. I went to school in the early 2000s, and I was diagnosed in the early 90s. This was the time when they believed that people with like special needs should be segregated or put in the lowest group, because actually they are, I don't know, they try and make you out to be stupid in such a way, in such a way that it's quite. When I was in school, it felt like they would uh, put me in a box. Everyone thought I was stupid, and yeah, I'm not stupid. Did you know that just because I'm dyspraxic, I have quite a high IQ? My actual IQ is about 128. Actually, I think it's 128 without looking. Could be, actually, no, it's 130. And I believe that genius level is about 130 onwards. So you're counted as a genius by that thing or that list. So, you know, just because I'm dyspraxic and I have dyscalculia, it doesn't mean that basically, you know, it's that I'm dumb. However, I do need the support, like I said. So yeah. So okay. So when I went 2008, 2009, when they took so long to put support in, this was done by Swansea Education Authority and a nice man called James Kitchen. I know I said I wouldn't mention names, but this guy's name has been mentioned on Real Terryo Radio so many times, we might as well mention him now. So James Kitchen was the manager of student finance at Swansea LEA. He no longer works for the organisation and is no longer a part of student finance. Swansea LEA, come to think about it, no longer administer student finance. So, you know, what can you do about it? Last year, they decided to merge Student Finance Wales with all of the LEAs, so the local education authorities. That's what LEA means. So if you ever watch the TV program called Waterloo Road, and they say the LEA are called, they mean local education authority. So the LEAs had stopped administering student finance in 2009 for repeat students or students continuing. So basically all the first year students from last year were administered via Student Finance Wales from the first day. They centralised it basically in London. Now, after they centralised us repeat students, they looked into my file. You know, quite good. Remembering that they got sent all of these documents from the LEA, Local Education Authority, and they would have been sent these documents, you know, from them. So they had files. You had all of my files and, you know, all of the paper files, because before the LEAs would only write on the paper files rather than the computer file. And that's life. But no one actually had the grace of thought to put the computer files on to a computer system. So, you know, whatever was on my paper file should have been put onto my computer file, even though that they would still need them today. So basically, they didn't notice that the LEA had overruled themselves 3 times previous because I had no support. And basically, the Equalities Act actually says that no person in education should be left behind. No person discriminated against. No person should be unfairly treated. However, if you are, what I mean by unfairly treated is that theoretically, you know, last year that I mentioned my laptop broke. And we are going to talk a little bit more. When my laptop broke, my laptop has the assistive technology, they call it, on there, that is meant to provide, that's meant to actually put me on the same level as the rest of my class. But in practice, it works. In theory, it doesn't. Or the other way around. In theory, it works. In practice, it doesn't. So, yeah. I then, last year, going back to last year when all of these problems and like when they started. They sent me a letter saying, "Dear Mr. Davis, we'll no longer be able to fund you for this year and next year." So basically, they removed all of my finance by mistake. No one had looked into the files. You know, the paper files? Paper? No one had looked into the paper files. It turns out no one has still looked into the paper files. Because all the way through the complaint process, I've had to provide them with evidence, and they're going off evidence that I've provided them. And the evidence that I provide them doesn't seem to always be good. The answer on the response from the student finance company is always no. No, 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 no. Well, I've got some no's for you too. So basically, at this moment in time, when it comes to the Student Finance Wales, I feel discriminated against because I do not fit the one-size-fits-all, or the Welsh Government's one-size-fits-all education policy. I went to my local AM. Now, an AM is like an MP for those who are not in Wales and don't understand our Welsh Assembly. Education is devolved, meaning that the Welsh Assembly administer all education and student finance. Meaning that we will talk in a sec, and I will give you a brief. Hello, welcome back. So yeah, so we're talking today about, or we were just now, about the Student Finance Company. Very nice people. Actually, in Wales, they're called the Student Finance Wales. And one has to say that thank you to the person at Swansea Education Authority, James Kitchen, who's the manager. He didn't help one iota of a bit, and I know from other people in Swansea who have gone to university, and basically even they say that he very rarely helps out. Now, you are listening to a real Terryo TV show, one of our new shows, the Terry Davies Show. This can also be heard as a radio show on our radio station starting next week on a Monday night, a Tuesday and a Wednesday night, sorry. And on a Friday, we bring you the TV show. That's live. And yes, so right now, you can see the screen, and the screen is showing me. This is my picture. I don't want to show me because I'm a bit about myself, and I keep moving about. And I don't like it. So, like I said in the first video, today's topic is university and dyspraxia. Really, it's about disability as well. But I can only really talk about my disability. So, yeah. And we've talked about Team Terry. That's in the first video. And we're in the middle of talking about our lovely friends, the Student Finance Company, or Student Finance Wales, as it says on the screen. Now, my first dealings with them, going back, it was quite daunting, shall we say, because when they centralised everything, it took before I could call up the local authority, and I knew the people I was speaking to, and they knew me, and they knew like how to handle me, basically. Now you end up, and they could answer the question there and then because they're actually the assessors. Now you call up a centralized call center that isn't the assessors, that are, what are they called, customer service assistants, that basically know nothing and just put you in contact with them. You can't speak to an assessor. You can't speak to anyone else besides these customer service numbers. What really doesn't help you if you're trying to find an answer about DSA. So this is one of my pet grumbles from last year. I called up because I put in expenses. So as a student with a disability, you can put in student expenses for books, for printer ink, paper, and and so on and stuff like that. So I put in my expenses, and basically they were mucking around and they were taking forever to come for it. Now, their guidelines in their regulations state that they have to deal with your query within 3 weeks of them getting it. Well, they never do this, and they never will. They're a typical government organisation. Although, if you look on their website, or if you look about them, the student loans company, they try and say, no, we're not a government organisation. However, when you're the only organisation appointed by the government to actually administer student finance, and the best bit is, the Minister of Education for Wales sits on the board of Student Finance Wales, yeah, and the Minister's office controls Student Finance Wales. Well, it's a little hard to say that you're not a government organisation. But that's just, you know, my pet peeve. But anyway, when you've gone through, it really doesn't make it helpful, because before, there was a 3-week turnaround. When the LEAs were looking after student finance, they were unable to meet, should we say, that 3-week turnaround, because there would only be 6 of them. And they would deal with every student in Swansea, just the local, like their local students. And this would be students who live in Swansea before they go to university. So if you go to a university in Aberdeen, Swansea would still deal with your file. Now it's all done as a centralised in Llandudno. But now they've decided that they're going to put a 3-week, and I mean 3-week timescale to stuff. And how it all works is they do it all on date order. So say if I sent them a letter today, tomorrow they'll and they receive the letter tomorrow, well, they won't look at that, you know, or tomorrow's stuff until, you know, the date comes around. So if they have a backlog of work, you don't know as a student what's going on. Basically, they're meant to also fill in and show you everything on their website. This very rarely happens. Still, I did talk about the merger a little bit, and them trying to say that I'm not, without looking at the files that the LEA sent them, you know, the paper files that they couldn't or they wouldn't look at, and they were just going off evidence that I sent them. But if they looked at the paper files, they would have been able to see, you know, there were problems. So I had to go to an independent assessor in the end, and in parts, the independent assessor found in some parts in my favour, in some parts in their favour, and in some parts there was no case to answer to. However, we had to reappeal, and I love it, because whenever you call this customer service department at the student finance company, they give you, I don't know if any of you have ever received fake, what is it? I understand, sir, that you're, you know, what you're going through. Well, how in the hell can you understand? Like I've said previous, I've done some looking into people who work at the Student Finance Wales. Did you know that people who work with the Student Finance Wales, some of them actually have never been to university? How can these people understand what a student at university is going through when they're having financial problems if they've never been there themselves? How can, yeah, someone who is meant to work for the student finance company, or who is administering disability allowances, and, you know, who has only ever probably had student finance training, so as you know, and could have never come into contact with someone with a disability, understand what a disabled student at university is going through if they've never been themselves? So, you know, I find it quite patronizing. That was the word I was looking for, patronizing. That, you know, when someone turns around and says, I understand what you're going through, but, you know, and you just want to say to them, and you just want to scream down the phone, but you understand what I'm going through, but. And sometimes I believe that, see, like I've further said, I believe that education shouldn't have a price of £9,000 or £7,500 or even £3,000. Education should be free for the people who want to learn. Most universities are actually registered charities. And I know this is coming out and sounding like a party political broadcast, but what can you do? So, you know, sometimes the student finance company are the hardest people to deal with. And my advice for you, if you're going to university as a disabled student or as a dyspraxic student, is to fight, fight, and fight. Because, you've got to fight them all of the way. Now, I've got 5 tips for you. 5 tips. Okay, the first tip is, from the first day that you know you're going to go to university and you look, make contact with the disability team. They can help you, after you've applied and you've been accepted. Tell them be in the summer that you're coming, because in September isn't good enough, because you actually have to wait a couple of weeks, months, for your support to be put in place. By then you still have work, you have no support or limited support, and it does sometimes hurt you. Hello. And so you need to tell them that you're coming. What's quite daunting, but sometimes when they know that you're coming, they'll have it all ready for you when you get there. I was lucky when I went back to university in Swansea. They were able, because I had a needs assessment, so you have to go for a test if you're dyslexic or dyslexic. Then you go for a needs assessment. At the needs assessment, they tell you what equipment you need or support, and they try and put it, into place, basically, for you. Then you're able to see what you need, hence the name needs assessment. You have a needs assessor. You can also see the needs assessor at any time to change parts of the support, or you have a GSA team at the university that also helps you change the support. I'm interested in this because I'll be interested in to hear Terry Begley's views on this at a later date. It's sometimes people have different experiences. As you know, Terry is blind, so he had a different experience to me with my disability. So you are able to see. Then we have our lovely friends, the Student Finance Company. Always apply for your Student Finance your finance early or on time, because this helps, to get it out and to apply. So yeah, the Student Finance Company can be daunting, can help. Now, number 3, sorry. Let the guys know on your course that, if you feel like that you have a problem, they're not going to judge you. They're going to, sometimes if you've got a good group, they'll push you, they'll help you. Number 4 is try your goddamn hardest. Don't ever let anyone tell you that you shouldn't be there, or you can't do this, or try and make you out to be something that you're not. And, if you want to be there and you can succeed at university, good on you. Just do it. Do you know what I mean? Just go out and do it. If you're thinking about going to university now, go and, apply, because you probably won't ever if you don't, if you're just still thinking about it. Now, number 5 of my 5 tips are basically have as much fun as you can at university. You're not always going to be at university, and it sometimes is a bit, I don't know, sometimes it can be a bit daunting, should we say? And it can be a bit daunting, but what can you do? It's life. In these podcasts, or vlogs, or whatever you want to call them, I'm going to tell you more about my university experience, days, weeks. This was just a quick, hello, I'm Terry, and this is what I'm going to do. And I've told you some of my stories. Please stay tuned, and I look forward to having you guys, come over my history in the last couple of months, or the last 3 years of my life, should we say. I'm also going to talk about real Terryo stuff, and we're going to, like I said, we do a radio show called the Terry Davies Show, and we're going to talk about the same, what we do on the show. So yes, do come and join us. And all it is for me now to say is good night. And thank you for joining me and watching. Do check out our website, realterrioradio.com. And from me and the rest of the Real Terrio team, have a good evening and a good weekend. Bye-bye. Goodbye. 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 So yes, you know, sometimes, you know, your life is yours, and my advice to you would be to live your life the way you want to. Don't let your family dictate because you have a disability. You know, if you're over the age of 18, you are able to run your life. You shouldn't let your mum tell you if you should have Facebook. You shouldn't let your dad tell you you should have Facebook. And I'm just putting this back up because it should have been up and I pressed the wrong button. But it's your life. Don't let them tell you what to do just because you have a disability. The disability isn't of you. You are you. The disability is just something that means to me, basically. I feel that my disability isn't me, but people see me as a disability. Well, that's not really the case. And I hope that over the next couple of weeks, months, years, or however long we do this, this helps you a little bit. And I'd like to thank you for joining me today, and have a good evening, day, week, whatever you are listening. Remember to check out our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/RealTerrio, and give us a like. We'll see you soon. Goodbye.